Whoever is logging in should log in now. Um, People can still see us, like can still hear us in the background. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I changed the background song, and I still think I'm gonna get a copyright infringement on that song. I don't know. I wanna see if I can contact the owner of that song and see if he can give me rights to it. She stands crying in the desert, in a wasteland of lost hope, as she reaches for an answer, a cure for her soul. She cries, oh, oh, in the sea of her emptiness, a river starts to flow, bringing peace to her restlessness.
Hey, Israel, where's my charger at?
Are we running out of juice?
Oh, I'm about to go grab my charger.
Okay,
Hold on.
please.
Yeah. What, reading books? But then he was doing something else. Okay, well, I'm on a schedule. So you have to decide, was tea more important than reading time, or how you can incorporate the two together? Okay, I'm charging now.
Just so you know, we hear you. We hear everything you're saying on the live show. So welcome to the show today, the 20th of April, 2022, and this is another episode yet again from Afro Alien, and today again we still have Scott. So yeah, a very sad incident happened in the last couple of weeks in Michigan, where I come from, in my own backyard. Another black man got killed, and this drives straight home to my heart because this man is from Africa, right in my backyard in Congo, which is neighbors to my country, Uganda. And he came into this country about the same time 7 years ago when I did. And his last name might be mistaken for my last name. So this is a story that drives home for me. If shooting African Americans had never driven home into my heart, this one did. So I'm gonna be being very personal on this. I'm gonna own this story, and so I'm just gonna play a short video, and then we'll get right into it.
Investigation.
Hey, stay in the car! Stay in the car!
Investigation continues tonight after a Grand Rapids man, 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya, was shot and killed by Grand Rapids police during a traffic stop yesterday. News 8's Byron Tollefson sat down with Patrick's father, who wants answers after losing his firstborn son. Byron?
Sue, Peter Lyoya, Patrick's father, brought his family here from the Democratic Republic of the Congo 7 years ago in hopes of a better life. But after losing his son yesterday, he questions if anything has really changed. He speaks Swahili. We spoke with him through an interpreter.
I don't want you to think that this is a safe place, because I thought that was a safe place, but it seemed like we are in danger even when you come here.
The family of 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya is demanding answers after he was shot and killed by Grand Rapids police Monday morning.
Something that I never thought, I never dreamed that one day I would be the one burying my son.
Police say Patrick was behind the wheel of a vehicle pulled over at Nelson Avenue and Griggs Street, and he ran off during a traffic stop. The officer chased him down, and after what police call a lengthy fight, the officer shot and killed Patrick.
I don't know the reason why my son was killed. So I am clueless right now. I'm kind of confused. I don't know what is going on, why my son was killed by the police.
His family says he did not have a weapon when he was pulled over, something Kent County Commissioner Robert S. Womack, who met with the family today, believes is especially concerning.
And I'm just very concerned whenever a person is killed and murdered that didn't have a weapon on them. I believe the training that our police get should equip them to be able to handle a situation with their hands when it's hand-to-hand combat and not lead to lethal weapons and death.
Police have not said whether Patrick had a weapon. Michigan State Police records do show Patrick had been arrested multiple times since moving to Michigan, including 3 related to stolen vehicles. Peter met with Chief Eric Windstrom today and says he wasn't allowed to see his son's body.
Even I wanted to go visit the body of my son. They didn't give me the permission to go see my son's body. That's why I'm deeply hurt. I'm mourning right now. I'm crying right now.
Womack says that needs to change for the families.
His father really wants to see his son's body. That being in the hands of the Kent County Medical Examiner, his hands are tied because it's under investigation. So there are some policies that really hurt when families step up and want to see their God-given right to see their sons and daughters who have passed at the hands of police.
Peter describes his son as a family man who leaves 2 kids behind.
And he was a sharing person. He helped his family, he helped his brother. If he had money, he would share with them, he would bring them some shoes, some clothes. And I believe one day I will meet with him in heaven.
Michigan State Police are investigating the shooting. Sue?
Byron, what do we know?
Hey, Scott.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a story that, like I said, is on my heart. And I don't know what you have to say. I know you're very passionate about these things.
Mhm.
I'll let you say whatever you need to say, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is, it's very disturbing to see this type of thing happen. You know, um, and I couldn't hear the video too well. I hope the viewers could, but I did watch another tape. So I just pray that I don't know what'll happen in this case. Because normally it doesn't seem like it. It just seems like the police officers kind of get away with it. You know. I think he did attempt to run or something like that, but he was unarmed and he was shot in the back of the head. I know him and the cop kind of tussled a bit and stuff like that. And, I think he could have panicked. I don't know how good his communication was with the officer in terms of his language and stuff like that. But, I just keep thinking to myself, maybe the officer could have used his baton or something like that, but to use his gun and kill him, I just think that was just, excessive. But unfortunately, it just seems as if, well, it doesn't seem as if, we do know that there tends to be stricter force used against black people in these type of incidences, but it's just really sad, it really is. And I just wish things could have turned out differently. Mr. Loya, but it's very, 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 very sad story.
Yeah, let's pick it up from where it started. They say he evaded a traffic stop, and there was some kind of police pursuit, and then after that there was a fight. He got out of his car. We can clearly see in the video something that I personally feel he probably shouldn't have done. What do you think about that? Do you think that he risked his life by doing what he did? Why was he running from police? Do you think there might be a reason?
I don't know if he was asked to get out of the car, but I think it's best in situations like this, to try to remain as calm as possible and to just try to, whatever the police officers are asking you to do at the moment, to try your best to just kind of follow through whatever they're requesting. And if you feel like something wrong is being violated, you can always get their badge number and call their supervisor later, So that's personally, if that was my son or brother, that's how I would advise them. I don't think that this man was necessarily a threat. I just think he kind of responded the wrong way in the wrong type of situation, especially with how things are, So yeah, I think, because when I saw the video, I think he had tried to run, and then the cop caught him, and then they kind of tussled a bit. The cop tried to tase him. He tried to take the taser away from the police officer. The officer wrestled him to the ground, and then the officer's body cam went off, But anyway, the officer's cam went off, but the officer, I think, was kind of on top of him, and he shot him in the head, and we know that he was shot in the back of his head. So that's pretty gruesome, But I would advise somebody, and I'm saying this carefully, but I would advise somebody in a situation like that, it's best to just not run. I think the police officer said he had the wrong license plate to that car or something like that. Then after that he ran or whatever else. But I don't think there's any reports that the car was even stolen, right?
I have honestly not heard anything about that.
Yeah.
It is very common for Africans to just do things the African way. He probably just picked up a car from a junkyard and then just put a plate on for a few months just to survive. And there's been this season of COVID where, and this is just my assumption, and I should have researched about it. But there's this season of COVID where cops were not pulling anybody over that, over stuff like license plates and expired license. They were not doing that. They were simply giving everybody slack for.
Yeah, they didn't want to get corona.
Even if you didn't have plates, you could go away with that, But so I think he got carried away by that, that lapse, and he didn't know that, okay, now it's over. So, but I don't know, like, I think about this guy and I'm like, okay, have you been to Congo? Have you
I haven't been to Congo yet. Haven't been there yet.
Yeah, I
know it's
because of the security situation, but I think you would have been there already. But it's a blessed country by God, naturally. Everything is there, the gold, the diamonds, everything is there in plenty. People literally harvest their own gold, like they dig and get gold. But the governments of Uganda and every other government around there is killing people around there to get access to that stuff, and it's so bad. And most of them are being used by the West to do that, just to have access to their resources. So these people are like scattered all over Africa, and now they are being brought here and taken to other European countries for asylum because of the situation in their country. So, but you know that they are colonized by Belgium, and they speak mainly French. So, and Swahili, which of course I could hear what the dad was saying in Swahili, because every East African can hear a little bit of Swahili. And so his situation is kind of. Do you think that because he didn't understand English, he completely misunderstood what the officer was telling him to do?
It could be that, or maybe he's fearing his immigration status. It could be a lot of things running through his mind. You know what I mean? Because like, I haven't had this experience. I'll probably get it when I go to South Africa. But I know for my wife's family, it's expensive to file your immigration papers and get your visas and stuff like that. So you probably feared that, oh man, they might find this, I might get deported or something like that, or I might lose a particular status. I think he just panicked, and then it could be a language barrier too, somewhat of a language barrier. The fear of being stopped by police. Maybe he's seen other tapes of things that have happened with black men. So it could be a lot of things going through his mind, and so I that's what I think. I just think there was something else.
You think that he was. You think like he was, and that's a good point. I'm thinking that maybe his visa expired, or when they come here, especially like I think he came in as a legal immigrant, like
a refugee. I would say refugee status.
Oh yes, most likely.
Yeah.
And he had to follow the process to get citizenship, which he probably didn't do. And I know very many Africans who actually come here as refugees, or they come here with some kind of
visa
status that can keep them here forever, but they only have to do the paperwork. They have to kind of go and officially finish things up, and then they sleep on it, and then they don't do it, and then it expires. Then they have to be deported. You know what I mean? There's one African guy who actually got deported for that, and we were so mad because he literally was just supposed to just fill out paperwork, send it there, update his stuff, and become a citizen. And he just lost it. They had to take him back to Sudan.
Oh, wow.
And he's there, and he's sad because the opportunity is gone. It's over. Once you're deported, you can never come back to any country. Once you're deported from a country, it's just like when you fail a drug test, and they fire you from a job. It's like there's no way you're coming back there. You're gonna try another place. So that's a good point. Maybe he slacked on his paperwork, and he was gonna be caught at that point and taken to the airport and deported. So he was like, you know what, I gotta run away from here before that happens. Because I would imagine if that was happening to me, I was like, dang, I'm done. I'm going back to Africa. Because at that time, if you have nothing, there are guys who have nothing to show for being here 7 years, 10 years. They don't have any savings. They don't have any investments in Africa. They don't have anything. They don't even have a house. They don't have anywhere to go. They probably don't even have a family to go to. And then you're like taking them back, deporting them. They're not going to run away. It's going to be like, there are people who actually have already made up their mind that they will kill me before they take me back to Africa. So maybe it's one of them. You know what I mean? So
Could possibly be.
yeah, and that situation probably like could be that's your response could be the perfect answer to that. But also, could it be a trigger, like because he has seen these videos of George Floyd and other people, other black men being killed?
Hmm.
Do you think that, like you say, do you think that that could be also a situation that could be happening in his mind when the cop decides to pursue him and then pull him over? Do you think that he was like, I'm done, I'm gonna die, if I don't run from here I'm dead?
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, I wouldn't think that that's far fetched. You know what I mean? So, I'm sure a lot of things can go through a black man's mind when they in certain circumstances, you know, and so that could be another thing. You know, I'll never know for sure, but that could be another possibility. Maybe he felt like I have to get away, you know, so this could be it for me, you know, and different people respond differently when they're stressed out to certain circumstances, you know. So, because like I said, this guy doesn't have a criminal history, you know, he doesn't have a criminal background or a history of evading police or anything like that. It was just the wrong day, wrong moment for him, unfortunately, you know. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of things went through his mind, you know.
So, and again, you mentioned that, unfortunately for us black men, do you think that as a black man, you know, we just attract danger? Like every time a cop pulls us over, do you think that these cops think that they cannot survive when they pull us over? They think that their life is also on the line, that they have to engage brutal force in order to go back to their families. Do you think that is a preconceived bias and a preconceived fear that they carry with them every time they pull over a black man?
I think a lot of them think that way, or they feel like they got to get extra force, or, you know, but me kind of knowing the history of America, you know, it's like, you know, my father grew up in the South. He grew up in Texas. So he grew up during the time when there was segregation. And, you know, they just had certain rules, crazy laws in place. Like if a white man was coming down the street, they had to cross the other side of the road, and they had to bow their head down and say, good day, sir, or something like that. And if you didn't, you know, people in his community, he's seen people get lynched, you know, which is basically being hung for no reason. So America has this violent history of dealing with black people, especially black men, for a very, very long time. So it's like, then they have this fear inside of them. A lot of them do, not all white people, but a lot of them do, that black people are dangerous. So that can be a preconceived bias that I believe a lot of these police officers carry when they deal with black people, you know. And, you know, to some of them, I mean, I've had friendly interactions with police officers, but I've had interactions with them where it felt very tense. I remember one time, this cop, I got pulled over for speeding. I was in a work van, and I used to transport clients for a halfway house. I used to pick them up from the prison and bring them to the halfway house. So I got pulled over for speeding, and the police officer made me get out of the van. It was a state trooper. Then he made me get in his car, like in the back of the car. And, you know, I'm tall, and the backs of those police cars don't have much room in them. So I was like all bent up and scrunched up inside the car. And I asked him, like, why do I have to get in the back of the car? And he said, just get in the back. And man, I'm going to tell you, Loyola, my heart was pounding. I was praying. I was like, Lord, please let nothing crazy happen. And so, when I was a kid, I've had police pull me over. Well, I was riding my bike then. I was like 11, and then asked me if I stole a bike or something like that. And they would check my bike. So I've had those interactions with police. But my mom, like a lot of black parents, would prepare me beforehand about if should I get pulled over, should I get stopped by police or security, how I should respond to them, and always try to get their badge number. So I always kept that in mind. So I try to remain as calm as possible. But yeah, I mean, yeah, some of them do. I think a lot of them do have that preconceived idea that these are dangerous people, and that I'm going to deal with this person that I feel threatened by differently than if this person were white. Like if it was a white guy, I don't know if he would pull out his gun and shoot him in the back of the head, even if he tried to take his taser from him. He'd probably try to grab his baton and get the guy down before his gun. That's what I think he would probably try to do. But, I'm not the cop neither, so I'm not in his head or his mind. But I just see these kind of things happening a lot of times, and I think a lot of them do have that preconceived idea that, yeah, black people are dangerous, and should they do anything, I'm going to use force,
So do you think that, why would they label us as dangerous? Is it because we are strong? And when I say that, it doesn't mean that, and that is stereotyping. We carry the stereotype of strength. And we do. God has blessed us with physical strength. I know I'm one of those guys who like to say that, hey, God has not created everybody the same. I know we live in a world where people like to say we are all the same. We are all the same. And it depends on the context, but I believe that God has created people different for a different reason, like for specific reasons. There's a reason why you're black, and there's a reason why somebody else is white. And generally black people will be strong people physically, with physical strength. Like it's just going to be that. They're going to be physically strong. Do you think that when this cop pulls us over, he's like, you know what, I stand no chance when it comes to a fight with this guy, and the only weapon I have is my gun. And then when when it's a white guy, he knows, I'm gonna manhandle this guy. I'm gonna wrestle this guy down. We are equally matched with this white guy. Whatever he decides to do, I have him. I know all his tricks. I have the same strength like he has, and I'm trained. I'm a cop. I probably have more, like defense tactics. I have more, like skills to manhandle this white guy. So do you think like it's a genuine concern they have because we are really strong, and they're like, okay, because these guys are strong, if he doesn't have the right set of mind, he's probably gonna kill me if I don't kill him. Do you think it's a genuine concern because of our physical strength, which is like a disadvantage on their side? Or is it just history? Or is it just a history of violence that we have as Africans? Are we historically, statistically against the cops and fighting them and resisting them and killing them? Is it history, or is it a genuine natural disadvantage they have over us that they're afraid of?
Okay. Well, let me address the latter thing you said about a history of violence against the police. That's not really. I don't think that black people in general have a general history of violence against the police. Like we're known to just kill cops. You know what I mean? So that I don't think that's it. I think perception has a lot to play into it. So if you have a certain prejudice and bias, the prejudice against black people is that black people are dangerous. So if that's their perception and their prejudice, then that's how they feel they have to enforce laws against black people. And that just stems from a long history in America of using violence to control black people. You know what I mean? That's a long history that's been going on for centuries. So the way you deal with black people is to deal with them violently. The crazy thing is they called us violent. So It goes back to the times of slavery. So, we were brutalized on the plantation in order to get work out of us. And then when that ended, you had the segregation like my father experienced down south. To enforce those type of Jim Crow laws, they used violence, lynching. They would tar and feather people, burn people's houses down, burn down churches, do anything that they could to inflict, once again, terror on a group of people that they said were violent people, but yet they were using violence to control us. So it's really boils down to perception. A police officer, if he encounters the average person out here, he's probably better trained on how to physically take somebody down, even somebody bigger than them, somebody even slightly stronger than them. An officer is trained how to do that. They know how to restrain people. They know pressure points. They know where to grab you. They know how to take, they're trained to do that, So it's perception. If they feel Black people are dangerous people or people that you should use extra force with, this is the fruit that we see happening in America, is that these are violent people, and they know that their community will support them because their community feels the same way. I think even in the medical profession, they've done surveys on doctors, and they have said, even though science does not back this up, they say that Black people can take more pain. So a lot of times Black patients aren't prescribed more pain medication. So if their general perception about us is that we're not like regular human beings that have pain and that are vulnerable, that could be hurt, then you're going to treat that group of people in an inhumane manner. And so that's what I really believe, that a lot of people have to really honestly evaluate, what do they think when they see another group of people? What do they think when they see Black people? Do they automatically think this person's a criminal or a thug? He's a threat to my life. He's a danger. Or do they just think of them as anyone else that, okay, if something goes down, I can take this person down with me, So it's built on prejudices and biases, subconscious biases. And it's a dangerous thing when you're in a position of power, when you have those kind of biases against a group of people, because now you can exercise that and almost get away with it.
So, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna fix this?
Man, how are we gonna fix this, man? That's a challenging question. For one, I think, and for this young man, I think personally, if he had to remain more calm, he had a better chance for him on his end of the deal. For police officers and people in general, we have to really ask ourselves, what is our view about other people? Do we see other people's lives as being valuable just as if it was our own? If I see a Black man in a vehicle, how do I respond to him? Am I responding differently to him because of his skin color? So that's something that people have to take an honest look at themselves. And then I think another thing too is, in cases like this, or in many other cases, it's not just this one, the juries have to be willing, when they do see that it's an unjust use of force, they have to be willing to convict. They have to be willing to at least put some type of punishment in place for bad policing. You just can't shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, the cop feared for his life, even though the person didn't have a deadly weapon in their hand. We have to be honest about, why is society giving a pass to white police officers when they kill Black people? So, those are the real things. Those are the things that we almost have to come before God himself and kind of bear out our soul before him and say, are we treating others the way that we would want to be treated? You know, would you want an officer to treat you like that if you didn't have a weapon on you? Would you want them to use deadly force against you? And if the answer is no, if you know the answer to that is no, then you can't treat people that way. So it just goes back to the golden rule of do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That's really going to be the real solution. I know that sounds simple and basic, but it's the God's honest truth. If we treat people the way that we would want to be treated, every single person, then you're going to be more likely to think about what you do before you do something to someone based on a subconscious bias that you may have about them.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, this is an African guy from Africa who got killed, and every single time, like I said earlier, it's been African American man, and we've had those, like those preconceived, like thoughts that, hey, you know what, African American man, they put themselves in these situations where they get killed. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, like a police officer is not gonna shoot an African man because they're gonna hear his accent. Like they're gonna say like, oh, that's an African man. He's harmless. He's harmless. he's a harmless man. I'm not gonna kill this guy.
You know what? Because when I looked at the article about this situation, they brought out in New York City in the 90s how a Haitian American, how he was brutalized by police. There was a Nigerian man in New York City. So then you had the Botham Jean, who was from St. Lucia, and the cop walked into the wrong apartment and shot him. I don't know if you remember that case a few years ago. That was in Texas. So, yeah, I mean, some Africans think that, if they use the accent, that I'm not like them. I'm not like them. No, they don't care about the accent. They look at the skin color, and there's already a perception.
Oh man. That's risky, man. So we thought that, we used to think that, we can get away by using our accents, but now it doesn't look like it's working. So I don't know, I don't know what African, I know you love Africa and you have a passion for all Africans, all blacks across the board, whether they're from, like you say, your wife is from, Haiti, and there's, you like all Africans, those who are in the in Africa and those who are in different parts of the world. Like I wanted to say, like where Jamaica and other places like Bahamas, the islands, the beautiful places over there. You care about all blacks across the board. So this is probably not a question that I would love to ask you, but I just want to know, what do African American men who don't like Africa, who don't like Africa as much as you do, think about this situation where, hey, this African got killed. I don't know how they feel about it, because, there's this tension between us whereby some African Americans don't really think that we understand their situation. And here is us in the same situation now. And I don't know if they are like, okay, now we understand what you guys are going through. I don't know. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard, because I haven't really been too much on social media. So I do know that there were protests in Grand Rapids, Black Lives Matter. So, they're generally going to speak up for all black people. You know what I'm saying? The NAACP. Because in our mind, a lot of times if you're black, you're black. For Black American, typically it's like we see ourselves as one people. Now, yeah, you do have people that have their various issues against different cultures of black people. You have ignorant people like that, or maybe they had a bad experience with a black person from a different country, but I think a lot of black men probably already understand that the issue has been our skin color or the way we look. That's what's been persecuted in this country. It's not necessarily about your culture or your language group or your tribe. It's just the fact that you're a black person, and this is how we are perceived by the white population in America, no matter where that black person comes from. So I think that's probably what most people think. There's this comedian, his name is Godfrey, and I think he's from Idaho, but his parents are Nigerian. And he even told a joke once how he would get pulled over by the police and try to speak in the accent, thinking that was going to spare him. He's like, no, I got racially profiled just like anybody else, And so, he'll talk about, he's hilarious, So he said, that doesn't, you got to think about it. Colonialism, I'm pretty, Uganda was colonized by British. All right. So the British had a perception about black people globally. They always felt that they were better than black people, no matter where those black people lived. And then the black people that, originally America was a colony of Britain. So the black people that they got from Africa were underneath the British system of slavery here. So they knew where we came from. They knew they brought us from Africa. And so now the British might have did things cleverly in terms of okay, you have the Buganda tribe in Uganda. So let's be a little bit more favorable to them so we can get out of them what we need so they can control the region for us, that type of thing. They would do a divide and conquer type of deal. But they never really unfortunately, they never saw black people in general as their equal across the board. And that's the same thing with the Spanish, the French, the Belgium. You mentioned Belgium with Congo. It's the same idea of white supremacy and how we deal with and treat black people across the board. It never really mattered. So we might tell ourselves psychologically, well, it's just like a black person here. I may say, well, hey, if I speak with proper grammar, if I speak with clear diction, if I sound more like a white guy, maybe they'll be easier on me. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that might help you get through a job interview, but you're going to get racially profiled regardless, whether or not I'm speaking Ebonics or if I'm speaking the Queen's English, So I think a lot of times that's just survival mechanisms we come up with as black people to try to navigate through this world. And we say, well, man, if I use the accent or if I look less threatening or if I talk a certain way, and it just seems like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like any of that necessarily works per se. All I can do is try to be kind and respectful to anybody to bring peace to a situation. That's the best thing I know how to do. But, unfortunately, a lot of times they just see you as black and, okay, you got the accent. So what? You're black, Yeah. you're a threat. You're a danger.
It's not working. I mean, I have said it on this show before, and I will continue saying it. I say it to those guys at work. Like I told you, only black guy in my crew, and I tell them point blank every single time that you white people are very violent people. I've told them that, hey, all the crime videos I watch, it's you guys killing your wives, killing your children, killing everybody. I've told them that, and I never stop wondering if actually these are the guys coming through as cops at the end of the day, and they're violent, they have their personal mental issues, and they're cops now, and now they have so much power, and they're going to vent it out on a black man. They have a family issue, they have some pain at home that they're carrying to work. You know what I mean?
Sometimes, it can be a lot of issues, yeah.
You can't help but think like that.
Yeah, my uncle was a police officer. So I had asked him, he lives down the street from me. I asked him, he's a retired cop from Cleveland. So I asked him about what does he think about all these police shootings. He said, yeah, white cops be killing black folks and getting away with it or beat them. He's seen things happen as a police officer, and he said there have been times where he had to intervene and maybe calm a black person down, basically sparing their life. Because he said they have all kind of ways to get away with doing things to you, especially when you're black, because of the perception, you know. So it's not a figment of our imaginations, you know. Now, do some black people draw unnecessary attention to themselves? Of course, everybody, you know, we're flawed human beings, you know. But yeah, I mean, if a group of people you can get away with exploiting and taking advantage of, and you want to feel like you're in power and control, then who more so to take advantage of than the vulnerable, which would be in this case black people, you know, or Native Americans, you know, people that have historically been taken advantage of, you know. So yeah, there could be a whole lot of things going through an officer's mind, like you stated, having a bad day, and then here comes this person that I can flex my power on, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but think about that. I mean, it's, you know, I have nothing against white people, and they,
I know you
they
don't.
know that. But of course, I don't know if they actually mentally vet these guys sometimes, like, because it's
Well,
very-
they do.
it's
Yeah,
very-
they do. They take psychological
Yeah.
tests, but
it's
they this one cop here in Cleveland, who shot this kid. He was playing with a toy gun, and it's like a matter of seconds. They rolled up on him and they shot him. They didn't even give the child a chance. It was a 12-year-old. They didn't even give him a chance to put the gun down or anything. They said that police officer had tried to get hired at some other suburban stations, police stations, and they wouldn't hire him because he didn't pass the mental evaluation. But then Cleveland, which is a much bigger city with much more problems and crime, more stressful, they hired him. So they hired a man who was psychologically unfit, you know, and you know, like I wonder if he, I think to myself, if he were a black man and he was declared psychologically unfit, he wouldn't get a job nowhere. They would not hire him. But Cleveland said, okay, welcome aboard, hired him, you know, gave him a badge, put him out there on the streets, and you know, he ends up killing a 12-year-old. So it's just, you know, like you stated, when you pointed out to your friends, yeah, white people, y'all can be violent. And I think the reason why you're saying that is because the stereotype about us is that we're violent, you know, that we're dangerous, but they don't look at how violent, as you stated, these crime shows, I've seen them, people murdering their family, their girlfriend, their business partner. It happens almost every day in America, you know, and but yet, I'm not saying that homicides don't happen amongst black people. They do. But yet we're labeled as a group of people as being violent, you know, like Loyola is a danger, you know, and then on top of that, you're dark skinned too. So they're going to really think, you know, he must really be criminal. You know, it's crazy. It's insane, you know, but, you know, God is good. In the midst of this, we know the Lord, both you and I. He causes us to overcome, and you know, despite all that's happening in the world, he still has put love in our hearts to share with people and to pray for them, and pray that that the Lord would open their eyes of their understanding and cause a major transformation of heart and mind to take place in people's lives, so that their outlook could be different in life.
Yeah, amen. So, but do you think that defunding the police is a solution? And we are taking a different twist to this conversation right now. Because there are people out there who think, okay, we need to defund the police. We need to reduce the police. Do you think that's a solution that actually can work?
I don't know, man. You know, I don't like that term because it just sounds like, you know, if I said defund the schools, everybody would be in an uproar if I said defund the schools. I think even Obama talked about that. He said, I think that's a bad term. I think what you have to put money into, of course, money is not going to solve all the problems, but you need to put money into providing better mental health for people, providing health care for people, better schools, you know, better parks, you know, cleaning up the litter, the trash on the street. I think we talked about that one time. So I think that's where we need to try to fund things instead of just building more prisons and that type of thing, or building up a prison industrial complex. We need to try to focus on things that can help people and help families out, And so if they're going to talk about taking some of the police officer funding to put it into the community in other ways that could be preventative towards crime, then yes, we should do that. But the term defund the police, I think that's a bad slogan. That's a bad way of presenting a solution to people, because that automatically, people are going to, I think since COVID, in some cases, crime has now kind of gone up in a lot of ways, So you're going to need police officers. I'm not anti. I don't. We need police officers. We need good police officers. And maybe try to do a better job. Or I think departments are doing this, of recruiting, men of color, black men, Hispanic men into police forces. You know what I mean? And get people from the community who want to do the job, give them an opportunity to do it as well.
So you think that, in your opinion, you think that Hispanics and blacks in the police force would help to bring in people who understand different tactics of handling minorities? Because because I've seen some videos of rough Hispanics. Hispanics can be very egoistic. I have seen some Hispanic cops who try to show off their bossy, that they're in charge. They like to show that they're in charge. And, and some of them can be the most violent when it comes to these situations. So do you think that minorities can police themselves properly, better than... Because I sometimes think like, okay, in Africa, we have African solutions for Africans, okay? There's situations in Africa where we have community policing. Just like people here have neighborhood watch here. In Africa, we have a little bit of community policing sometimes in effect, where the community will do its job to make sure all the boys are disciplined, all the men are in order. And if there's one man who is doing something stupid in that community, they're going to punish him. The community can do its own policing. And I don't know, do you think that that's something that America should try? Do you think that America should try and say, hey, you know what? Let black people handle black people, and let's see how they can do that. Do you think that a black man in this situation would not have shot, a black cop would not have shot this black man?
I would like to believe they wouldn't. You know what I mean? It depends. It depends on that. I remember this one. Okay, like my uncle, he was a police officer. He's a calm type of a person anyway. He's the type of person that tries to de-escalate situations. He's big, tall, 6'5". I have another cousin that's a parole officer, APA, which is kind of similar to a police officer. And he understands, he understands the dangers of the job of policing, but at the same time, he's not, his intent is not to go out here and shoot black men if he doesn't have to, So, that's always a challenging question. It's just like, if you have a black man that's good, a good black dude. I remember this one cop I used to work with when I worked at the halfway house, a former police officer. Man, he was a trip. He was a black dude. And how he would talk to some of the guys in the halfway house, and he was horrible, so he was one of those type of people that got drunk off of power, So I think for anybody, you gotta like, the Bible talks about being meek. So that means like having power with restraint, If you're going to do policing, it's a tough, thankless job. Yes, you do deal with people who are difficult to deal with at times, but you can't have a me against the world attitude in that job. You got to be thinking about the community and keeping people safe. even people who may have violated a traffic law. You know what I mean? You can't think of them as a danger or a threat unless they have actually shown that side of themselves to you. But yeah, I mean, you talked about community policing. That could work if you're properly trained to do it. I know there was an organization called the Guardian Angels some years back, and they would be like neighborhood watch people that would kind of patrol the community, and they weren't armed, but they knew certain defense tactics, that type of thing. I know the Black Panthers, they were kind of policing the police to an extent. So, yeah, I mean, I know in Chicago, and in some other cities and states, there have been things where fathers have gotten involved in the schools, and they've seen a reduction in fights and gang fights and things like that. I know in Chicago, they have some organizations that do stuff of that nature. It's brought a reduction of certain gang violence at certain schools. So yes, it can work. It definitely can work. Because the main thing is providing care to your community. If you care about a people and you genuinely love them, want the best for them, and you engage in that type of work, then it's always going to be more effective. And there are some white men that genuinely, I'm pretty sure, care about their jobs, even if they're in a Black community, So if you genuinely care about people and care about the people that you're serving, you can always do a better job of servicing them, and it can work, And yeah, you're right about that, about some Hispanics. Well, some Hispanics, I'm going to say this, I might offend some people. A lot of Hispanics, Hispanic is a broad term. It's not really a racial term because, the people who came from Spain, who colonized those countries are from Europe. Those are white people, right? They have their descendants that are there. And so when you go to those Spanish-speaking countries, it was the same thing. They had Black slaves and white plantation owners. So it's the same type of system. So just because you're from a Spanish-speaking country doesn't mean that you're free of white supremacy. If you're a white Hispanic person, you can still carry the same mindset. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I had to throw that in there, Right. But I'm sorry. But in Uganda, you guys have like mob justice, right? Doesn't that sometimes happen too?
Yeah.
We
have mob justice is when we don't trust the police to do their job, and we do it. We take it upon ourselves to be the jury and the judge and the executioner.
That can go extreme. But like a friend of mine. Okay, he's from Germany. His wife is Uganda. He lives in Kampala, and it's a pretty nice area, nice street. So there used to be a ton of break-ins. Somebody was always trying to break into someone's house. And you know how they always had the fences, the high walls and stuff around, homes. And so one of the generals owns like a security company that's up the street. So they hired that security company to protect the street at night. So my friend, they give the security guards, food and stuff like that. So they just camp right in front of his house, But I mean, they're effective. Like even when people try to write fake checks from the shops along the road, and they trying to run through the neighborhood because like the street comes to a dead end, but then there's like it's kind of marshy, and then you got like a hill and some trees and stuff like that it runs into. So people would try to run through there to escape, but the security catches them. And since the security has been there has not been any break-ins or anything like that. I mean, I felt very safe walking down that street at nighttime. The security knew me. They were cool. One of them was a girl too, but she would catch those guys too when they come in there trying to, So I mean, they're hired people, but they have a genuine care and concern about the people living on that street in that community. And I think it's more effective than the police. At least they're in that community, you know. So, and they're trained. You know, they're very well trained. I saw a lot of private security in South Africa. Like when you go to the different estates and stuff like that, it's like when you go to an estate, you got to have a code to get into that estate. I mean, they don't play, and like their private security is probably like its own police force, its own military out there. It's crazy, but you know, sometimes they're more effective than the police are. You know, so I think both kind of have to work together. You know, in a sense, both have to respect each other, but yeah, we got to look out for one another.
Yeah. So yeah, that's well, we do appreciate every time you come on here, and so yeah, this show is gonna be like coming to an end.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's still very fresh in my mind. This has just happened.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
we have to look out for each other, and
Yeah.
we have to support each other, and we have to talk to each other. We have to have shows like this and share our opinions, and maybe somebody else there will be watching and taking notes on how to respond when they face that situation, because this can happen to me tomorrow, this can happen to you tomorrow, this can happen to anybody tomorrow, and how you conduct yourself there. Like, you know, you cannot control what that cop thinks when he pulls you over, but at least you can control you.
Exactly.
You can control yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot control that guy, so you have to
Right.
act in such a way that you make it so easy for you to get out of there and go home safe.
Exactly.
Even if he decides to take you to jail, make sure you get to jail safe. So whatever
Right.
he decides, the last thing he should do is pull his trigger. So that is gonna totally depend on you. It is not gonna be. You can't control people. You cannot go around
Can't
controlling people.
Nah.
People are sick. People are mentally sick, and people have issues, and they take those issues with them to work every single day. Unfortunately, I wish there was a
Exactly.
way we could just filter them out before they come to work,
Right.
but we can't. They come home. I mean, like I said, I watch all those crime videos, and the guys who kill their people, their families, well, are mostly people you least expect to do that. Like, they just snap, and boom, people are dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and it's like they're crimes of passion.
Mm-hmm.
They just happen. And so to survive, you have to control yourself.
That's
You
very
have to
true.
just determine that no matter what, even you might be having a wrong car, or you might be having a wrong plate. You may be having all the bad reasons for a cop to kill you, but you get out there alive because of how you
Yeah.
you behave,
How you conduct.
how you conduct yourself.
Yeah.
So
How
as
you
black
conduct
people,
yourself.
yes, we need to kind of we need to kind of teach ourselves, you know, like come up with a new precedent, like change the narrative of what cops think about us when they pull us over, and that is going to take for a long time. My son will come here, and I don't want him to be in a situation where his life is at risk, because I didn't train him how to. If a cop ever shoots a guy, I want it to happen when the guy actually did every good thing in the book. Like, we don't want to see a video of one thing we shouldn't have done. Oh, I wish we didn't do that. I wish he didn't do that. Like, I want to see a clean video of everything right. And then this guy got shot. That's the video I'm waiting for. But unfortunately, we don't get many of those videos. But anyways, thank you, Scott, for coming on the show.
Right.
And thank you for making time.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely we'll be having another series, another episode coming up at some point. Yeah. If we don't have one over the weekend, we definitely will have one next week. So, yeah, so it's nice having you, and I hope you have a good night, all our viewers out there. We wish you a very wonderful night.
God bless.
All right, God bless. Bye-bye.